Hello, I'm Kaylee Dahlquist, and this is my critical appraisal of a quantitative research study video. So I looked at a study that was on work satisfaction and nursing management. It was organized really well. In the abstract, right from the beginning, we got a clear understanding that these researchers wanted to look at the involvement of managers and how that affected work satisfaction for all people involved. Overall, I would say the type of quantitative study is a descriptive study. They even pointed that out in their paper because they're looking at the descriptions of employees' work satisfaction, and they're using that to look at the relationships between management involvement and how that doesn't affect or hinders work satisfaction. It was really easy to identify the different sections in this research: the introduction, methods, results, and discussions. This study even included an end portion where they discussed a conclusion. In the intro, they talked about a need for people to be specifically trained for management positions, and they eventually talked about the need to clarify their goal for the study, which is to analyze the importance of management levels in nursing and its relationship with the work satisfaction of the staff and their teams. So the different methods they used was an interview of both management and general nursing professionals, and they also used a quantitative questionnaire to help them gather their data. The quantitative questionnaire was an 82 question questionnaire, and it had each question rate the employee's satisfaction on a 1 to 7 scale, from very unsatisfied being a 1 to very satisfied being a 7. In their results, they found that job satisfaction for managers was about a 5.4, which correlates to something satisfied, and the average for nurses was a 4.78, which basically equals out to being indifferent. And then they went on to their discussion, and they talked about how they had a lot less responses and data than they would have liked, so their study wasn't very statistically significant. But they did discuss how they did confirm their beliefs that management involvement improves staff satisfaction, and it also helps improve unit functionality as a whole. The steps for their study weren't super duper clearly identified, but you were able to find all of them. The problem or purpose for them was overall work satisfaction, and also a need for manager involvement as an extension of that. They did review literature, and it mentions how they looked at other studies, and they had seen that there were studies all over the world about work satisfaction, but not really any specifically related to healthcare. Then they also had their framework, which was based around things they had seen themselves in practice, that work satisfaction is going to improve if their managers are more greatly involved. Then they also went on to their question or their objective, which was a little more specific, that they wanted to see if satisfaction improved, so would their quality of work and the outcomes in the unit. So kind of going deeper than just that satisfaction with the nurses, but the satisfaction overall of the entire unit. They had a whole lot of variables as well. They specifically pointed out very clearly gender, profession, work time in the position held, the type of hospital, and job satisfaction. So they were very aware of their variables. And they did a really good job of explaining their study design by detailing out their variables and what they would use to counteract and account for those, and clearly stating how they were going to gather their data with their interview and their questionnaire. The population and sample were also identified. The population was it's clear that we're looking at nursing professionals. Wasn't super specifically stated, but it's clear from the entire study's results, this is who we're looking at. But more specifically, their sample they specified was from a hospital in the community of Madrid. This entire study mostly takes place in Spain. Madrid is in that same area. And then they also talked about their methods of measurement and how they made it a quantitative study by adding a numerical value to that very satisfied, very unsatisfied, and so on and so forth in between part of their questionnaire. They then, of course, collected their data, and we can see what their data was from all of this and how they got it and the fact that they got consents from these individuals to use their data. And then they went on and we saw the analysis of the data from the various tables in the study and the other paragraphs explaining their percentages and their outcomes and their results. And then finally, they discussed their results. And they even pointed out that, like, unfortunately, they didn't get very statistically significant results, but they did learn from this and helped confirm their beliefs that they started out this study with. So I feel like we could pretty easily see that they did all of the steps for a research process. I feel like they could have clarified a couple things a little bit more, but I think it was laid out really, really well, very clear cut for the most part, which I appreciated, especially for this being one of my first research appraisals. I felt like this was a great place to start. I think there's tons of organization to this study as well. It was very accurate. I would have liked to see a greater sample size for it to be a more significant, like more complete study. But especially for when this was done, it's a very unique study to healthcare when, like, we've looked at they pointed out, like, they're looking at satisfaction in other areas, but not necessarily of employees and of healthcare. So that makes it pretty unique. And the process was also laid out very logically. You can see the bolded headings where it shows you how they went through this process and the steps of the process and explaining it. And there were also some very good critical arguments put in this discussion. They even pointed out, hey, we did this, wasn't super significant results, but we still learned from this. And they also did a really good job of explaining their variables and critiquing themselves and explaining how they were accounting for different things. So overall, I thought this was just a really great study.